you're going to be more accurate than most any software that you can buy or purchase. Well, I mean, you can use, a Takeoff software.
All right, hey.
But yeah.
Welcome to ProfitDig Live. I'm Jeff Givens. I'm here with Jeff Spencer.
What's up, man?
Two Jeffs don't make a right, that's what they say. We've got producer Jerry behind the camera.
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Today we're talking about Takeoff. And I'm not talking about Jeff's shirt, okay?
Thank goodness.
we
don't lose any viewers.
Well, no, yeah, that's us. Go ahead and close this video.
Yeah.
So, hey, what is Project Takeoff?
Well, Project Takeoff is what you start, to build or price a job. In order to price a job, you got to know what you're dealing with, and I'll say this first and foremost, if there's any way you can, go visit the property or the area that you're going to be working on or you're about to take off to kind of get a good idea, mainly of location, where it's at. And the other thing, is to look at the lay of the land.
So what stage of the project are we in at this point when we're going to do Takeoff?
This is like a preliminary project. You are preparing to give a price to someone, whether it be multiple GCs, one GC, or maybe an owner.
So have you already won the bid at this point?
No, you're preparing
the
information you need to bid the project.
Okay, so I want to make a bid, but in order to make a bid on this job,
I've got to do a takeoff to figure out what my quantities are that I'm going to be dealing with, whether it be, in grade work, utilities, so on and so forth, and maybe you're a structural contractor, maybe it's, you're looking at the architectural drawings. But generally, they have like an early release package on bigger projects, and that's going to be your grade work and your utility work for the most part.
Well, and that sounds like maybe on a bigger project where you've got a set of drawings, but legitimately you can do a takeoff on any project. Like even if you're just doing residential work and you've got a job at a house,
yes,
you've got to generate a bid for that.
Right, and those are called estimates.
But in essence, it is a takeoff, right? Like you get your quantities.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, a takeoff, like you may go out and physically put a tape measure on it, and you're preparing information to give an estimate, but you're not necessarily locked in the estimate. I think I can do this work for this amount of money, and if something alters, then it'll be more or less, or whatever. But actual takeoff is when you lay down blueprints.
Okay, so there's no real takeoff unless you've got drawings.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like when you're giving an estimate, they're two different animals. It's like you don't have a set standard drawing that you're doing, like, hey, this is what it's going to look like when it's finished. So, when you go out and look at something like say this wall over here, the customer wants to take that doorway out and make that wall bigger. You're going to go in, you're going to measure that wall and kind of figure, what your materials are going to be. You're not taking off of actual drawing. You're out physically, measuring and preparing an estimate. This is a quote. He's essentially bidding on a project, but it's not really considered a bid. It's an estimate or a quote, because he's not doing actual takeoff.
So let's say, okay, so we've said what is not takeoff. Tell me what takeoff actually is. We said it takes blueprints. What are you doing with these blueprints?
Well, like I said, first and foremost, you want to go visit the area that the blueprints are drawn for.
Okay.
You want to get a good idea. If you're a grading contractor, you want to get a good idea of the location. You want to get a good idea of what kind of terrain you're dealing with, and other surroundings. You want to focus on getting access. What's access going to look like getting to this project?
And that may not be obvious from a drawing.
From a drawing, no. And you can see some stuff on Google Earth or Google Maps, but to really know what you're dealing with, or what you may encounter, it's worth a physical trip to the site to see, because it may be the difference in we can't get deliveries in and out of here, mobilization is really going to be tough, getting trucks in and out, and materials, spoiled materials, like your waste dirt or getting in stone and, dump trucks in and out. It may be, you may have to have flaggers that you didn't know you got to have. You may have to have multiple sets of flaggers, getting them in and out of one street to the other, especially in a downtown.
You would know that unless you visit.
Unless you visit, yeah. But, going back to the drawings is like, on this table here, say where you do your takeoff set, you got your drawings laid out and you want to look at existing conditions.
Okay.
That's going to kind of go back to the site visit. That's going to show you what you got to deal with. And then you're going to look at demolition drawings, if there are any.
Now, I've heard the term as-built. Is that the same thing?
That's at the end of the
as-built is at the end of a project. We're at the beginning of the project. In fact, we haven't even won the project yet.
Right.
Okay.
So, you want to look at existing conditions. You want to look at if there is one, you want to look at your demolition pages, seeing what structures may have to be removed, what materials may have to be removed, trees, so on and so forth. Any kind of vegetation's got to be removed and demoed. And then, you get into your grading and excavation. You look at your cut to fill, cut to shift, rather, and then you go import to fill, cut to export, whatever that may be, that situation. Every job's different. Get your quantities, put together, and then based on the location, based on the size of the job, based on production rates, is going to give you an idea, like what you're going to be able to charge to do that job. Whether that be on piping or anything else, grade work, you've got to be able to where you're going to make your money at is on production. So you've got to be able to look at those drawings, do your takeoff, get your quantity. That's what you're doing. You're getting your quantity.
So when we say quantities, like what are we talking about here? Quantities? Are we talking about the number of hours it's going to take?
Well, you're mainly right now, no, not yet. You're looking at your quantities in dirt, your quantities in erosion control, import, what you may need, your quantities and your materials for your stone bases, quantities and materials for your pipe, whether it be water, sewer, storm, whatever it may be, any kind of structures you need, storm or sanitary.
We're not really, at this point, we're not considering labor.
No.
We're trying to get quantities, as you called them, get your quantities right for the materials.
And list them in order. You want to start, top to bottom. You want to start with your grade work, just like a job's going to go in. Your grade work and your utilities, so on. Well, of course, it'd be your demolition first. But, so on and so forth, like we've been naming them off. Once you got your quantities and then being familiar with the area where the job's at and what you got to go through as far as timing wise, that's going to give you a good idea of your labor rates and equipment rates. That's where you got, once you do your takeoff, as you're doing your takeoff, you're getting familiarized with this job.
Yeah.
You're looking at, and you start thinking, or at least I do, as I'm doing a takeoff, well, I think we can do this, or I think we can do that. You start to get some ideas in your head what's going to speed this project up.
So you're not quoting hours yet, but you've got it. It's in the back of your mind, like, oh, we can do this.
Yes.
Okay.
And as you do that, and then you get your quantities taken off, when it comes time to price, I'm going to go. I've left my drafting table. Now I'm going over to my desk. I'm sitting down. I've got my spreadsheet filled out, and I'm starting to put.
Or a tool like
ProfitDig. Yes. And I'm putting pencil to paper now, trying to figure out, what it's going to take to put this job in. Yeah, I'm sitting at my desk, but I've got a pretty good idea, but there's going to be multiple times I'm going to get up and go back to the drafting table and look at those drawings. And I'm going to be like, I'm fine tuning everything. And then I've got to figure out, is this a job that I want that I have to have, is it a needy job? Do I need this job to keep going? And that's going to really, determine on your labor rates and how cheap you want to be. But there again, you got to be cautious because you don't want to sell yourself out of a job.
Right.
But you also don't want to get a job so cheap that you can't make any money on.
Well, and as you said, you make your money on your labor.
Like that.
Right. I mean, materials is going to be the same for everybody.
Yes.
But, for the most part.
Yes.
And you'll have maybe a little bit of markup on the materials, but it ain't going to be much.
Not much. And, there may be a few feet here, a few yards there, that somebody sees a little bit different on their takeoff than what you do. But most of the time, your materials are going to be within 1% to 2% of each other.
Yeah, for any competitive bids.
Yes, any competitive bids.
Okay.
So where you win or lose projects is in your labor and your equipment. That's the only things that you have control over. because everybody's got about, unless you got a surplus of materials that you bought and stockpiled, then that's going to give you an edge.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not going to be for every job. That's going to be for one or two jobs.
It's
you
a
run out of
finite
materials. Yeah.
set of materials.
But it does happen. You know, somebody gets a good deal on materials and they use them a lot, and they're like, hey, we're going to stockpile these.
So we've talked on this channel about Takeoff in the past, but you know, we're kind of wanting to brush up on it. Like, as if you're coming in with a fresh set of eyes, so you've got your blueprints. How can you actually, and we don't have to demonstrate a takeoff here, but what are the different ways that you can do a takeoff?
I mean, you can do it by hand.
Okay, so you can do it by hand with what? What tools?
A scale, you know, a scale ruler. You have a rolling scale. You know, some people use T-squares, you know, depending on how fine they want to get it down to. But I just use a rolling ruler or a rolling scale or a ruler scale. But, you know, that's the old school way.
Yeah.
I mean, most people have some kind
And that works.
It works, yeah. And it's 9 times out of 10, if you do it right, you're going to be more accurate than most any software that you can buy or purchase.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I mean, it's you're generally going to have better luck, you know, doing your
Well,
takeoff.
at this point in the project, there's still a lot of things up in the air anyways, right?
Right.
Like, it's not fully certain. Like, yeah, you know the land and you can have an idea. Things are always going to change through the project. So you can do it by hand. What else could you do?
Well, I mean, you can use, you know, a takeoff software, you know. They're very expensive. A lot of people, you know, your bigger contractors, they've already got them in place. You know, that's a tool they have to have, you know, so they've already got them in place. They got multiple estimators. They got people working for them, you know, that's cranking out bids all day long, every day.
And they're doing takeoffs.
They're doing takeoffs all day long, every day. So, you know, they need those products. But, you know, just like what we're implementing right now, you know, at ProfitDig, you know, we have a takeoff tool we're working on and hopefully have it ready to go, you know, before too much longer. But, you know, something like that could speed up the process. I know, like Building Connected, you know, has a little takeoff deal.
I've heard of Plan Swift.
Plan Swift has them,
It's
yes.
a big one.
You know, and a lot of your file share, you know, people that contractors use to get files to you, they'll have a takeoff tool, but you know, they're not very efficient. You know, they'll give you links and you still got to do a lot of math with them and stuff, but you know, it's still save some time, but just not as much as, like, you know, the full on
Like a dedicated takeoff
software.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and we, you know, obviously, you know, this channel is a ProfitDig channel. So we, you know, as Jeff mentioned, we're building a takeoff software inside of ProfitDig. And a lot of these other companies digitally, what I've seen is, yeah, you can sign up, you can get their bidding module, you can get their cost tracking module, their project management module, and everything costs a certain monthly fee or yearly fee, or you need a license. Maybe you even need training for each individual module.
right.
Not for ProfitDig, it's just going to be whatever you're paying. Once it's released, it's going to be part of your account.
Right. And it's going to, you know, the direction we're heading in, it's going to speed up your takeoff process. There's still going to be a little bit of math involved, but, you know, it's going to be kind of a happy medium between like what Plan Swift offers, you know, and versus what you have on your dedicated software takeoff that costs you, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. And this is going to be including your monthly fee that's going to get you right in the middle of where you need to be. So it's really going to speed up the process, especially for the up and coming contractor. I mean, this is it's going to be like the icing on the cake. I mean,
Yeah, you're going to have to do takeoffs, so you're going to have to figure out how to do it by hand. We've got a video that covers.
Right, yeah.
Actually, I think it's 2 parts to that video series, but
I believe so.
we show how to do that. Also, digitally, like, can you do your, you know, you upload a PDF or some JPEGs of a drawing, and then you draw you set a scale, and then you draw your lines or, you know, different shapes, squares, triangles, rectangles, whatever they need to be, you know, and you set aside these areas. Sometimes it's not like a normal shape, you know, you've got a specific bounds, but you set your square footage, or, you know, maybe it's a linear measurement, and then you associate the different materials with those measurements, and then it will perform the calculations for you.
Yeah, and you'll have, you know, like your cubic yards, your cubic feet, your square feet, square yards, so on and so forth, will all be in there, the average stuff that people uses, especially on the civil side, any kind of civil drawings, it's going to really be uh, uh, an asset for you. It's going to save you a lot of money, going to save you a lot of time. You're going to have a full-on takeoff application, just not with all the bells and whistles. I mean, it's going to do everything you need to do.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it'll come in time.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. I mean, I think I wanted to cover the basics here of Project Takeoff. I think we've done that. If you've got questions about Project Takeoff, or if you've got questions about ProfitDig, let us know in the comments. Like the video, share it. If you made it this far, we appreciate you
Yeah.
very much. Subscribe to the channel if you like this content. Tell us if you didn't like the content. Tell us what you didn't like about it. Help us get better.
Something you want to see, let us know what it is, or a topic you want us to address or talk about. We'll try to address it the best we can. We by no means know everything, but what we don't know, we'll either figure it out or we'll lie to you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
See y'all.